of the opportunity and a great turnout. Thank you for the coffee and cookies and for being welcoming. So with that, I'll hand it over to Tom for any opening remarks, and we'll have some by Tom and anyone else from your council, and then we'll kind of take the reign from there, speak on what's happening out in the county, and then just have an open question and answer discussion, and can go from there. So.
Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome the supervisors to the town of Pierson. We're glad to have you here. I thought I'd tell you some of the things that we're proud of in town. We have two of the nicest parks in northwest Iowa. We take a lot of pride in them. Plus, we have one of only 2 sand green golf courses in the state. If you guys want a challenge, come on out. Separate the men from the boys. Also, we have a new bank, a fairly new post office. The elevator put up a new state-of-the-art maintenance building this year, and our school is only a few years old. So for a small town, we do have some nice new structures. I'd like to thank the board for helping us with our comprehensive plan. We appreciate that. Gets us pushed in the right direction. Some of the projects that we're working on here in town, we are putting in a new pump house for our water system here. We get devastated in a storm a year ago in June, and we're trying to rebuild that. We're working on loans for the water tower work, maybe replacing water meters, and some storm sewer work, all of which takes a lot of money, and like all other small towns, there isn't much. We depend on grants and loans, and hopefully forgivable loans. But we appreciate any help we can get from the supervisors. And with that, I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. I don't know if we'll take you up on the challenge as far as the golfing. I think I'll be one of those who would be in the category of one of the boys. But we've really appreciated being able to be out in different communities. This will be our 7th area that we've been able to be out in, and then we'll have our 8th on Monday. So it's just a good chance for us to get to know you a little better and to dialogue. A couple months ago was County Government Month as far as safe and effective services that really has to do with safety and quality of life. And one of the things that I never knew to such a great degree is the extent to which county government touches so many aspects, whether it's elections, emergency services, conservation, or anything that deals with our criminal justice system, relief, and so on. And so we have a lot of folks here that are either elected officials or department heads, and one of the ways that we just wanted to help bring county government to you is to let you know very briefly what some of those folks do, and then if you have questions of them as well, or want to grab them offline, that may be a way to get a question answered that you've always had on planning and zoning, or on our roads, or perhaps something to do with the auditor's office. So we have those folks with us tonight, and what I'd like to do is just have you as a department head or elected official tell us your name, your office, what you do, and a couple of sentences, and that way people can put a face to the, or a name to the face, and understand what you do a little more. So I think we'll start with our auditor, if that's all right, and we'll just kind of work backwards, and then I'll tell you some things that are going on in the county.
I'm Pat Gill. I'm the county auditor, recorder, and commissioner of elections. So what we do in our office is that essentially we pay the bills for the county, we do the payroll, we do put on all the elections, city, school, and general elections. We do all that with the help of some folks around here. And on the recorder side, that's where we have the marriage, birth, and death records, and we handle all the county's real estate records. That's how we build the tax list, is when parcels are filed with us and sold. That's where we keep the records of that, and that's how we build the tax list that I know you folks look forward to getting that every year. That's essentially what we do.
Thank you, Pat. Julie?
My name is Julie Conley. Our job is to drive by, as you've probably seen many times, drive by each property every year, and we appraise property for Woodbury County.
Mike Clayton, Woodbury County Treasurer. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having us. Pat says he does all the manipulation of all the figures. He just gives them to me, and then I send out the statement. So don't blame me when you don't like your tax statement. I'm just the evil tax collector. So what we do is we collect property taxes, distribute that money out to all the taxing bodies. We also do motor vehicle title and registration, and then we also take care of boats, registration of boats, ATVs, snowmobiles, hunting and fishing license, all that. We're located in the little courthouse in Anthony. I'm sure most of you probably do your work there, and that's fine. We appreciate that. If you do come to Sioux City to do anything with property taxes, we've moved. We're not in the courthouse anymore. We're up 2 blocks up the street in Trosper. Same street, just 2 blocks up, in with where the motor vehicle department is. So if you do want to actually come and pay your taxes in person in Sioux City, that's where you do it. I would recommend you go to Anthony.
Thanks, Mike. Dennis?
Dennis Butler, I work for the Board of Supervisors. I work with the budgets mainly, work the day-to-day operations, problem solving. Also, we work with TIF districts, which we have a lot of them in Sioux City. Now we're starting to get a few out in the rural area. Also, we do the annual financial report. We also do work with the auditor's office on taxes, budgets, things like that. And we're there to answer any questions.
Hi, and my name's Ed Gilliland. I work as the HR director. We do all the behind-the-scenes stuff that nobody really sees. We do the hiring, the firing, the workman's compensation, the safety, the self-funded liability, self-funded health plan, and a variety of those types of things.
Hello, my name is Rick Schneider. I'm head of the County Conservation Department, and our primary function is running our county park areas throughout the county, wildlife areas, public hunting areas, preserves, shooting ranges, on and on. We also operate the Northeast Pico Nature Center, which is where our offices are located in Stone State Park. We deal with conservation easements, manage several of those, and I guess the closest parks here, Developed Park would be Little Sioux Park near Correctionville, and we also have Midway Park, or north of Mobile. Thank you.
Gary Brown, I'm the Director of Emergency Services. Our offices are located in Climbing Hill, Iowa. We have a group of men and women there that respond on a 24-hour day basis to emergency calls. We respond alongside of your fire and EMS volunteers. We respond to about 1,100 requests for services a year. We've just made some upticks and improvements to the Climbing Hill facility. We've taken out all the, if you drive by the old school, the old Woodbury Central School, take a look at it. We've made some significant changes to the outside of it, trying to improve both the energy efficiency and the appearance of the building. And then we just brought on board our new paramedic. We now have, part of the time, we have 2 people on the squad at once. Normally we respond with just 1, but now we're responding with another full-time employee. He's on 7 to 7 with rotating days off. He's Jerry Kelly. He's a paramedic with about 29 years of experience. So it's really increased our capability to help take care of the patients. We brought some new equipment online to try to improve our cardiac outcomes, cardiac arrest outcomes, and cardiac saves. So we network with all the volunteer services in the rural area to try to improve the quality of service.
Thanks, Gary.
John Malloy, IT. All these people you've been listening to, we provide computer systems for those folks. And something unique about our department is that we provide IT for the city of Sioux City and Woodbury County. So there's about 53 locations throughout the county and over 1,000 employees we support and close to 3,000 devices. And boy, I'll wrap this up. After growing up in small town South Dakota, I'm really impressed with small town Iowa. This is a cool community.
We have a couple elected officials back there.
I'm DJ Jennings with the County Attorney's Office. We handle all the criminal prosecutions, work in the juvenile division to try to keep families healthy and together if we can. And then we support all these other department heads and elected officials when necessary. I know Jeremy said that he probably wouldn't take you up or hadn't thought about the golf course, but I would. And in fact, it's been a number of years, but I used to come up here a couple of times and play with a longtime resident who has since passed away, Francis Bauer. So I'm more than happy to come up.
I house all Jeremy's, or PJ's success. And he's been successful. Just one thing I'd like to share, in Sloan, small town similar to yours, we had a homicide about 1.5 years ago. So don't think it can't happen. And I'll tell you what, PJ's office and our office worked well together. Homicides aren't solved like a TV show in an hour. But it was a long, complex investigation, and PJ's office did a great job. We can put the puzzle together. They have to sell it to the jury, and they came back within an hour and clear and convincingly found him guilty of first-degree murder. So Little Woodbury County is still safe. We have those kind of incidents every now and then, very seldom. But one of the things we're probably most proud of, and you see it, is Sheriff's Office has taken over patrolling all the small towns in Woodbury County. And every month we come, and the lieutenant presents to the community what we have done in the community. So for the city council, it's old hat. But we appreciate the relationships that we've built, and I think the council and the mayors would all agree that this has been a good program for everybody. We're glad to be a part of it.
I'm Mark Nair, Woodbury County Engineer and Department Head for the Secondary Road Department. With 50 employees, we take care of the 5th largest road system in the county road system in the state. We have 1,340 miles of roads, 315 bridges in the system to take care of and maintain.
I'm Jean Logan. I'm the director of the Community Action Agency. We are a private nonprofit, but for the last 10 years, we have had really what I consider the privilege, and it also makes a lot of economic sense, of administering the general assistance funds. Those are funds for people that would be low income, and we can help people with things like heat, water. You may be familiar, the agency as a whole runs an energy assistance program in the fall, but there are people that have needs at other times than that. So we are able to use this funding as the funding of last resort. Because our agency operates a number of programs, we look at all the things out there. If people qualify for any other kind of assistance, that's what we can help them with first. We do anywhere from probably 12 to 30 burials in Woodbury County every year. And we can also help with some medical expenses, rent or mortgage expenses. Think of any kind of emergency expenses that people might have. And we do have an 800 number, toll-free number. We also do a lot of food, and we will deliver food. We do mail applications. So if you know anyone that is in need of assistance, I would encourage you always that you would have them call, or even if you call on their behalf, to get more information so that we can help them.
Am I next?
You are.
Am I last?
Sure. We saved the last one.
It's good to be here tonight. My name is John Palello. I'm the Director of Planning and Zoning. I office out of several hundred miles of rural Woodbury County territory. My office is located in the 6th floor of the Woodbury County Courthouse. The department administers the functions of your Woodbury County Zoning Commission as well as its Board of Adjustment. We also are responsible for administrating and enforcing the Woodbury County zoning ordinances, subdivision ordinances, and floodplain management ordinances. And a member of our staff is also your Woodbury County floodplain manager. Thank you.
Thanks, John. John, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Matthew Long. I'm the Vice Chair, Supervisor. It's great to be here. Great to see you. Thank you for coming out. You know, last year when we started this initiative, I was pretty surprised to hear that this hasn't, a concerted effort, organized, hasn't been done before to reach out to the rural communities. And I'm just, every town hall that we have is meaningful to me because it's been the first time that this organized effort has started. And so I really just want to say that we are committed to balancing the unincorporated areas and the cities as we look at economic development. And again, it's great to see you. As we go forward, we'll be interested to hear how CDCs are developing, along with grant writing services and comprehensive plans. That's really a trifecta of economic development that we're looking at. And because our county seat is so far on the periphery of our county, you know, this isn't something that most counties have to do. But we're glad that our department heads come out with us, because most of our job is actually just directing your concerns and unleashing their potential. So again, thank you for coming.
I got to stand up so I can see over you. Mark Monson, County Supervisor. There's been an awful lot of things happen in the last year and a half that's just unbelievable. We are working on some expansion within the jail, which has never gotten this far, ever, as long as anyone can remember, and it looks doable. Little things have happened. Mr. Clayton offered to move up to Trosper Hoyt, which created an empty area for the clerk of court, who moved out of the jail building. Mike has started a program of cross-training, so if you choose not to go to Anthon and you come to the city to pay your taxes, you can get a one-stop from one person.
Well, maybe in March. We're still in the battle trying to get everybody trained, so maybe not September.
But the logic behind that's so simple. I mean, it's good for everybody. Pat Gill has done the same thing in the auditor's office. We have the best parks ever. People are envious. They don't advertise at all, and they're full from beginning to the end of the season. It's really nifty stuff. We have planning issues that go on all the time, along with the secondary roads, and it's a struggle. Everybody wants to beat the system and get their thing done their way, and we managed to keep all that in good graces. We do have a full jail, and as I rode up the elevator today with PJ, he says, "Oh, we're a little busy." So there's a lot of stuff going on, and I think there's a lot of things that have been done in the last year and a half that will move us down the road in a better fashion. We have discovered in the last year that the courthouse has got serious issues. It's been let go for decades, and some of the stained glass windows, well, one in particular was ready to fall out onto the alley. So we were told Tuesday night that the other three courtrooms aren't much better, and we haven't even talked about the 3rd through 8th floor yet. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Heating and cooling needs to be fixed in all the buildings. You can't let that stuff go until it breaks. You can't do it. It costs way too much money to fix it after it's broke. So we're underway. Got a lot going on. The plate is getting a little heavy.
There you go. I'm Jeremy Taylor, Chairman of the Board, and very appreciative of the department heads who, as Matthew alluded to, really make it happen on a day-to-day basis, including coming out and being accessible, and being out here always reminds me why we do what we do. And it's hopefully with you folks in mind in every decision. One of those big decisions during this last couple of years is the budget, of course. And so just want to give you an overview of some things that are happening within county government. We have an approximately $53 million budget. During the last couple of years, we've retooled our budgeting process and broke it out into operating improvements, whereby we either add some equipment or add a position, hopefully with the goal of improving services, and then also long-term planning, which you heard some of with the jail expansion and the courthouse. We have set a goal the last couple of years to lower the tax levy, and we've done so successfully both times. So you've gone from 776 to 751 down to 742 in the incorporated areas. Unincorporated areas, 1142 to 1063 down to 1052. We're absolutely committed to holding the line on property taxes because we think it's high time you folks have your budgets in mind and your family's budgets when we're doing our budgeting, so that you have more in yours and we try to do as efficiently as we can with your tax dollars. Toward that end, this past year, we looked at money that is going to come in the state's number one historic expansion in our history, and that was the CF Industries $2.1 billion expansion. Now, a lot of people have asked me, all right, I've heard this figure of $130 million coming in tax revenue, and I'd like a little bit of that. And so different people come with projects, or even different departments or communities and so on. Of that amount, about $56 million over 20 years' time will go to the county. And this board took action this past year to state that 1 out of every $2 is going to go to you, essentially. It's going to go to property tax relief. And we believe that that's part and parcel of good government to say, if there's going to be money that's going to come in, we believe that at least half of that ought to be dedicated to lowering the tax levies. We think that's an economic development engine, as well as something that's just part of good government. There is a lot that's happening on the economic development front. Not only CF Industries, but also AGP, and a lot of other agribusiness. I sit on the Siouxland Initiative Steering Committee, and they reported over $2.7 billion. $2.7 billion worth. Now, a lot of that, of course, is CF, and they're including that. But think of everything else aside from that in the Siouxland area. That has a real impact on things like local option sales tax, from which the county gets about $400,000 annually for economic development, including improvement of our roads in addition to that. That's where, as your mayor mentioned, the comprehensive plans are coming from. And so of that money, we decided that we wanted to make sure that every rural community had a comprehensive plan. And so we dedicated about $140,000 to those communities so that you could plan out in the long term. I see Mayor Jim Fisher from Mobile, and he was part of an economic development committee that was put together to talk about the experience in his own community and how powerful that is going forward. We want to leverage OPM. That's other people's money. We want to be able to leverage on the state and federal level money that can ultimately come into your community and help. Now that can be, I remember Correctionville coming before us, and they had a Vision Iowa CAT grant, and we ended up having an allocation from the county of $10,000. Why? Because that helped them to leverage over $100,000 at the state level. And so we've taken these economic development models to say, we believe the county can participate in not only helping to plan, but there are things, when we went to Washington, D.C., folks, we met with the Undersecretary of the USDA, and there's real either loan or grant money that's available. We know this because Bronson received $32,000 to refurbish their city hall. We also know that Charmac was able to expand on a $4.3 million expansion through that loan and grant money, and Wyattell put fiber optic out into the county at about $25 million. Much of it was financed through a USDA loan. So we want to be able to help your community to grow on an economic development basis and help to leverage our economic development director and these long-term plans. We think that that's going to be very powerful in the future. You did hear on some of our challenges as a county, some of the preventative maintenance that we need to engage in. What Mark was alluding to is there's an old county home called Prairie Hills, if you're familiar with that, east of Sioux City. That building is going to cost you folks about $1.2 million over the next decade. That's in utilities that are outrageously exorbitant out there, and in simply keeping that building duct taped and put together. It's on its last legs. What we're proposing to do, and this will actually come before the board this Tuesday, is close that building down and take the money that otherwise would have been wasted over the next 10 years, that $1.2 million, and for just under that cost, expand the law enforcement center that'll add 24 inmate beds, 3 attorney-client visit rooms, and an area that will help to have some alternative programs that we hope to alleviate some of the population of the jail. We think it's smart and efficient planning, and in 10 years' time will have paid for itself, so to speak. And I just want to credit the sheriff and his office for being great partners in the discussion and also just helping us with this plan over the last 6 to 8 months and working through that. Other than that, there's a lot going on that as we went around the room wasn't mentioned. The Conservation Department just opened beautiful cabins out in Southwood, and they do a great job. Emergency Services has some new equipment that is going to, we believe, ultimately save lives. And you had a position that's added out there that we think is going to be very powerful and potent. And there's some new gravel being laid this next year from the some of that dime sales or estate tax. And so there's a lot going on, but we're very, very appreciative of the opportunity to work with you and for you. And with that, just open it up to any discussion, questions, people that you'd really like to ask something of, or
I want to make just a couple comments that went out, didn't get them in. The comprehensive plan and long-range planning the cities do is the basis for getting a USDA loan. You have to have your ducks in a row when you apply for that stuff. And once you have that put together and you have a CDC that can function to take that money, I've been told a number of times that small towns can get grants for just about anything, but they gotta have their ducks in a row. The other comment would be Gene Logan from the Community Action Agency. Boy, if you have families or anyone in trouble in your area, plug them in. There's all kinds of help there to get them up and running.
And Mark mentioned something too. I wanted to, the CF revenue is stair-stepped in. Does that make sense? The way they wrote their project development agreement is that taxes would be abated at 100%, and then increasingly they will pay more and more over the next 20 years till they're at 100% of their minimum assessed agreement. We have an opportunity with some of that money. We mentioned 50% would be for property tax relief, but to look at some economic development projects. Now, that revenue doesn't really start coming into 2019-20, but when we look at communities that have a plan in place, which tells us you're all moving in the same direction and there's some community support for this and it's well thought out, that is a potential to be able to assist with projects that will gain an economic development increase in the tax base, or perhaps work with you on utilities or infrastructure needs as well. So know that that's out there, and that's part of us wanting to see all communities have some sort of comprehensive plan.
The county is in a position where we could just sit on our hands and wait for that to come in. But what we've decided to do is to take a more long-term approach in our maintenance especially. And so one thing Jeremy's brought to the board is his expertise in energy. And the LED project that we did wasn't just to make it so the lights don't flicker as much and people don't get headaches. It actually saves the county $100,000 plus for 15 years. And as we come across these obstacles, such as we found out that dozens of steam traps are malfunctioning and blowing hot air, your tax teller is right out the window or the walls. And we find out that these windows, these historic windows, need replacing. We've actually already budgeted for that. So even though a lot of these issues that you might have heard about are emergency repairs, one thing the county board has done in the last couple of years is institute a 5-year capital improvement plan, which apparently we didn't have before. So these sort of issues are already worked into the budget, and it's given us the ability to bridge this gap, as we've said, until that CF revenue starts coming in, so that we can spend money more smartly than just throwing money at the problem.
Lowering your tax levy sounds real good, but then your taxes go up. Why?
Well, there's a number of factions that determine your final tax bill, and the big one is the school district. So even if we lowered the county portion, the school district may have gone up, because it's all lumped in one.
But if you look, you find that your dollars that you're spending are more this year than the previous year, but you don't lower your levies.
Well, there's a couple of things. First, the year before last, for the first time in 15 years, we actually lowered tax askings in total. So the total amount of money spent was less than it ever had been in the previous 8 years before. And so the amount of money, not only did we lower the levies, but we also lowered the tax askings as well. The other thing that has an effect, as you know, is assessment. And that's something that's outside of our control and by design is. And so there's really, my response is there's three things that we can do. We can either increase the levy, keep the levy the same, or lower it. Both years when we've had the opportunity, we've lowered the tax levy. And we've done so in a way that we've tried to make it so that your ultimate tax bill is lower than it is. Now, sometimes within certain areas, whether you've got a school district or city, there's a combination thereof. But on the county portion, we've lowered that levy significantly the last 2 years and plan to do so the same as we can in the future years.
But if they reassess it and make it higher, this is like this year, in the amount of land I own, my taxes are $3,000 higher. Some of it, the parcel's double on 40 acres. When you call in, they have no response for you, and the state did it.
Well, and again, as a board, our charge is we've got three options. If we just stayed the same, and this was always a rub of mine when I was in my living room with my wife watching the news, and I'd say, well, everybody said we just held the line on property taxes, but because of the assessment, it actually went up, right? The total amount of money that you paid. So our charge as elected officials is, what do we do with that? And our goal has been to be as efficient as possible and to lower the levy. Now, will that outstrip any amount of assessment increase that you may have? It may not. But our goal is to, within the parameters of the budget, to make as many responsible cuts as we could, and we believe that we have. The first year, we, like I said, lowered tax askings for the first time in 15 years. That second year, with 5 union contracts, $300,000 in increased health care insurance premiums, we still lowered the levy. Now, whether that in every individual instance outstrips the amount of increased assessment, we can't always guarantee. Some people's assessments may have stayed the same, their taxes would have gone down on the county portion. If your assessment goes up to such a degree that our levy decrease can't offset that, that's something that is really outside of our control.
So whose control is that?
Well,
Who's
there's
increasing that assessment like that? The property's been that way for ever since we settled the country.
when you mention the word taxes, you're going to see a lot of people do something like this, and I'm going to do something like that. So, and with that, I'm not shifting the blame all to Julie, but Julie, do you want to just explain us first the process?
Sure.
On
Agricultural land is done on a 5-year productivity average, and that formula is developed by the state of Iowa. And we send in all of our sales to the state, and they monitor ours over 5 years, and every 2 years they tell us what our ag land has to be at. So if they tell me it has to be at 30 million, I have to adjust all my ag land to equal 30 million. We are doing now, that has been mandated by the state, we do give adjustments for non-crop land. So we have aerial photography that if anything has trees, creeks, or anything like that, you do get a break on your CSRs because it's non-crop compared to croppable ground. This year we are mandated to go by CSR2s, so we will be changing our soil survey to the CSR2s. As far as residential and commercial property, we have to be within 5% higher low of market rate. Again, the Department of Revenue, we send in these sales, monitor these sales, and every 2 years, what we like to do is we like to adjust the areas that need adjusting. Say Pierson doesn't need adjusting, but Sergeant Bluff does. We like to do those ourselves. That way, in October, if we don't do that, the state will come in and give us a blanket state-ordered increase and say, okay, your residential needs to be at this dollar amount, everybody gets a 10% increase, which I don't feel is fair when you have the smaller towns that maybe don't need an increase, or maybe need a decrease, and some of the Sergeant Bluff may need an increase or a decrease. That's what we're gonna prevent, is the state ordered increases.
So you have some state mandates that are placed on you, essentially,
Yes.
Julie, but can you tell, I think this is an important story to tell. Julie didn't take no for an answer. Can you tell them a little bit about what you did in kind of bucking back against the state that I think is important? to
I
you?
started, well, I've been in the office for 23 years. I became assessor last February. I was told in August that there would be a 35% increase on all commercial property as a state order for Woodbury County. I did not feel that was correct, so I filed the proper paperwork, and they lowered it to 27%. I still did not feel that was very fair. I had the sales to prove that our values should not be that high. So I did hire an attorney, and we ended up negotiating before we went to court, and we did get it down to a 15% increase. And that I did agree with across the board.
35% on a small commercial business out here would kill you.
I just wanted to let people know that, because a lot of times people see 15%, maybe yell this way, and we'd say, well, that was Julie. Julie says, but nobody sees the behind the scenes of what it otherwise would have been if she hadn't gone to bat. So I think that's important.
Commercial property is really hard. You have very little sales. Last year, when we bought this, we only had 6 sales. And so they actually let me bring in the previous year's sales. The 2 years ago, before that, we received a 14% decrease. So a lot of times, your commercial property is more of a roller coaster. So you really have to keep an eye on the sales and make sure your medians are where they should be. And if they're not, then you need to go with the state.
Other questions, thoughts that you have?
I got a thought.
Yes, sir.
With this Highway 20 going in, all the trucks is routed right out here and out for the cement through Pierson, and they've been for I-29 for fill from Warstall Pit. And it's tearing this road up, and it's gonna be really bad, and I'm hoping you guys keep this in mind. I'd like to see you come out and see how many trucks is gonna go through here. And we're one town that does not have a state highway coming through it in the county. And this is our main road here, and we hope that you really watch this road, because when that one and that I-29 project gets done, this road's gonna be shot, and it's gonna be resurfaced, and I hope you really keep that in mind.
Jeremy, I live a mile north of town. You sat on the picnic table, there's at least 40 trucks an hour. I've sat there and counted them. They come from Warsaw on C-66, down L-25 through Pierson and out, but there's at a minimum of 40 trucks an hour when they're running. Either tandem axle with a tag axle arm or semis. And some of them are hauling 96,000.
What are they hauling, gravel?
Gravel and rock.
They're hauling the base for Highway 20, and they're hauling over to the I-29 project, and it's all coming out of this pit.
How far do they go out on D12?
All the way to Sioux City. If
All the
they're
way?
going over to the 29 project, if they're going to Highway 20, they're just going out here to, was it L-25?
Lee Avenue.
Lee Avenue, yeah.
And go south.
Goes south there.
But we've sat out here and counted them, and there's at least 40 trucks an hour.
Mark, is there anything that is ever done, and this is just a question out of my ignorance and towards your expertise, that if there's an impact on the roads, that there's any sort of reimbursable expenses on behalf of DOT or anyone else?
Typically, we do a before and after survey of the road with DOT to determine whether there's any money available for reimbursement after use as haul road. They are being used heavily right now. We do a biannual assessment of our roads as well to utilize within our pavement management system to make those determinations of which roads get resurfaced and when. So there is a look that will be given when the projects are done out here. But on the other hand, the construction on Highway 20 is important to this area, and these roads do serve as the feeders that allow that construction to occur, so. Some of
We
that wear and
understand
tear is
that, Mark, but
unnecessary.
still, this is our lifeline.
And it's our road. I mean, the farm to market roads through this town are under the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors. And, you know, we do take seriously our job and take care of those. But they're part of 400 miles of other paved roads we have in this county. And with all the construction going on here, it's a blessing and a curse. We have wear and tear occurring to a lot of our roads out there right now because of the boom that, you know, eventually it's going to serve us well, but on the other hand, yes, we will be having to do extra work on these roads over the next few years to bring them back up in the shape we'd like to have them.
Mark, we may be able to preempt some questions as you discuss the state of gravel in the county. You know, when we sat down, you shared the 50% increase in 10 years and also how you might be getting more of it in the near future.
Everybody's aware that an additional dime went on the fuel tax last year. Woodbury County is receiving about $800,000 a year additional to its local secondary road budget. We're getting about $500,000 a year extra for our farm to market program. Our farm to market program is the area that funds our paved road system out there. D12 and L25, L36, the roads like that that serve the communities up here are funded primarily by that farm to market money. What the extra revenue is allowing us to do, and it's not taking care of the road up here at Pierson, but we have added 8 miles of asphalt resurfacing to our 5-year construction program, thanks to that money being here. Our next projects that are coming up as far as asphalt surfacing are County Road D22 between Lawton and Sioux City. We're doing D38 all the way from Bronson to Hampton. We're doing L36 from D38 north to 4-lane Highway 20. And we're going to be doing D25, which is Old Highway 141, between County Road H67, which is just east of Wolf Creek, into Smithland. These are the next projects that have been added, that are in the program, with 8 miles of that being mileage that we've been able to add to our 5-year program to make some improvements to that 400 miles of pavement. With the money that's coming in locally, we're putting about $300,000 to $350,000 a year into making some improvements to our gravel road system. The gravel roads over the years have probably seen the greatest amount of neglect due to primarily a loss of buying power. In 2006, $900,000 bought 138,000 tons of gravel. Last year, $1 million bought just 104,000 tons. So we've been losing between 30 to 35,000 tons of gravel per year that's been put into our road system. And if you folks know our road systems, you can see it out there that they're getting thinner. We've got more dark spots showing through. And what the board is allowing us to dedicate some of that extra fuel tax money to is trying to bring some extra gravel to those roads. In fiscal year 2016, the first year we received those revenues, we did 80 miles of gravel resurfacing, 300 tons to the mile. We just completed that project. That only puts on about an inch. It's going to take us a few years to get up where we need to be. And that 80 miles is less than 10% of that gravel road system. So we're starting to make, we're going to be trying to make inroads, but it's going to take a while to make up for the losses we've suffered in the prior 10 years. I'd say everybody keep driving. That the low fuel costs are really helping drive our revenues. This year, I think our revenues are based on actual cash received. Last year's state fuel taxes were higher receipts than anticipated, and that made a positive impact to our budget. So, again, those are the bigger initiatives we've had with that dime. We've also been able to add a couple of small bridge structures to our program each year in the 5-year program. So we're trying to accelerate the speed at which we're getting rid of some of our deficient bridges and structures out there. We have 4 bridges under construction right now.
That bridge thing's a problem as a farmer because you can't cross them legally with a load of grain. And so gonna go a different road, and there's the same situation on that road. So there's no way around without crossing a bridge that you're overweight on. You don't have any choice, you gotta cross it.
Yeah.
So
This area, we're trying to get about every other mile north and south where we're eliminating the bridges. So you can either go north to D12 or south to Highway 20. Then you'll start see us working on those east-west road bridges. But it takes some time to cycle through that. Board just led a project here between Cushing and Correctionville last week, and we're recommending award on that one for construction yet this year at next week's board meeting. But our average bridge costs about $400,000. That's average for everything from the single barrel box culvert up to roughly a 240-foot structure. It's a costly program for us, but there has been progress. I keep the bridge maps on in my office. In 2006, we had 127 structures that rated below 50 points as a sufficiency rating. Typically, those bridges are considered structurally deficient or functionally obsolete. In 10 years, that's down to 77. It's not all. There have been, I think, 5 permanent closures, but the rest of those bridges have been replaced in that period, and we're seeing steady progress of that. The board is in its 3rd year of a property tax levy of $1.3 million a year that is just dedicated to bridges and 1 grading and paving project. But that allowed us to add 14 bridges to the 5-year program. So when that program sunsets, depending on deterioration of other bridges, as we get some replaced, others are getting older. We're going to be trying to get into some of these areas where we're minimizing the amount of out-of-distance detour that people have to take to get their crops around. The best road in the world doesn't do you a lot of good if you can't get across the bridge.
Right.
And I don't know if you noticed, but we do concentrate first on the load-restricted bridges. I get a lot of complaints about width-restricted bridges with some of the wider farm equipment. But we put the priority on the ones that can't carry that legal truckload over the ones that are just simply narrow. It's good when we kill 2 birds with 1 stone, but that's where our emphasis has been. And again, that's how I'm working out this northeast area of the county is, again, you'll see us working mostly on the north-south roads because you have really good east-west paved links in this area. And, you know, gradually we'll start working those east-west roads out too.
Mark, when is in the process of replacing the bridge on 150th between Jewel and Knox, it's just 510?
Yeah.
When
That
are you
one.
gonna do that one? That's the only gravel road from Mobile to Correctionville straight through.
That is a
Otherwise, all
straight-through
the other
road.
roads, you know, up here south of Pierson, you can't get through on.
That one's in the 5-year, but I can't tell you which year it's in.
And it's like Tom says, you come to a point where you just go over them, hope you don't fall in.
Are you hinting that this 1.3 million levy would be renewed at the end of?
It's not my proposal to renew it. When we put that in place, as you recall, we did hearings throughout the county. And there was board perceived support for the levy at that time. And my promise at that time was I would not seek to renew it, and I don't intend to, Jack.
Glad to hear
What-
it.
Yeah. You know, part of what's replaced it is, you gotta remember, we got that dime now. That will be replacing it. Secondary roads the board is required to levy a minimum of 75% of the available property tax asking for the road department. That's a requirement the state puts on us in return for giving us $5.5 million a year. If we fail to make that minimum levy, we lose dollar for dollar every dollar we come up short. If property valuation comes on, that's going to be some money that's going to help us in paying for future road projects. That will add to that minimum levy over the years that we'll have to be able to use. The last round of development in the Port Neal area did a lot to fund our road system for the past 40 to 50 years. I don't know if you folks realize, but almost 30% of our property tax valuation sits in that area south of the airport. It's not farm ground, it's that industry down there. If CF is even ultimately taxed at half the cost of that investment that it took to build it, and then we tax that at the minimum levy, that's about $2.8 million a year coming to the road department. And that will then be able to go in and take care of the road system, hopefully, for the next 50 years.
I don't believe that special tax was ever meant to be renewed. Of course, that could be another discussion when it goes down, but let me tell you a story. Some of you may have heard already, but my first year supervisor, I got a call from Jack Jolin. If you know Jack, you have to smile. Jack is passed. He wanted to meet with Dick Storm and I on Allison Avenue, which is the road that gets you to CF now. And so Roger Milliken and Dick and I went out, Channel 4 shows up, and there were about 20 farmers out there. Allison Avenue, 11 years ago, was flat. The field was the same level as the road, and there was no ditch. And they wanted that operator to make that road a better road. So we got out there, and Dick Storm was always a very quiet person. So he just kind of stood there, and I took his lead, and we didn't say anything, and they started arguing over how that road should be fixed. Some of them wanted it peaked, and some of them wanted it pushed out, and some of them wanted it this way, and some of them wanted it that way. They got to arguing so bad amongst themselves. The little gal from Channel 4, she says, I don't understand what's going on here. I'm leaving. So she left. After about a half an hour, 45 minutes, Dick and Roger left, and they stood out on that road arguing over how that road ought to be fixed. The other good story is, I can't remember when it was, but there was a new motor grader operator who was doing a territory, and this lady started calling me and the engineer and complaining about his job. He was awful, he was terrible, it was the worst thing she'd ever seen in her life, da-da-da-da-da. Well, after doing a little checking, we find out that the old operator used to stop and talk to her every time he drove by. And this guy wasn't stopping, so she didn't like him. I would never be a motor operator, well, I'm telling you.
Back to the city, local city, when I was clerk, when the farm to market streets were taken out, and we lost a lot of funding for road use tax because so much of the streets are farm to market. And it really hurt our budget. And I don't know how it played out in the end. So,
How long ago was that?
2004, Mark. That's when all the towns under 500, the farm to market extensions through those towns were transferred to the counties.
yeah, they took a lot of our budget because we got a lot of money, you know, we have a lot of street that they consider farm to market.
We had an issue with Smith here a year or two ago, redoing the road through Smithland Farm to Market, but they had to pick up from the road to the curb, and it was a lot of money. And just like you, your budget isn't gonna pick up $26,000.
We didn't have that many miles of streets to start with, and when you took that big chunk out, it took a big chunk out of our received, tax money received.
But part of the story with Smithland and now Salix is that the board has been extending loans to the communities and allowing them to pay back that area outside the center 22 feet over a period of time at no interest. Smithland's currently paying that back. I can't remember what their annual is. It's something like, I'm gonna be wrong if I say it, but I was thinking it was around $1,600 a year. Salix will be paying us back at about $5,500 a year for the work that's being done between the edge of the pavement and the curb line for them. They're also getting all of their sidewalk crossing and street crossings upgraded to current ADA standards. And the board is funding all but $67,000 of a $970,000 project in town. That is one of the good things I think that came out of that bill is that a lot of these towns under 500 would have had difficulty making projects like this work if they didn't have the county participating in them. I could be, we return anywhere between 20 and 80% of that road use tax money to each of the towns. I can't remember where Pierson sits on that scale right now. But the amount of money that, I know it doesn't seem like it to the town because I know how important it is for your maintenance budget, but in comparison to the cost that the counties had to put into Main Street Smithland and Main Street Salix, it's much, much larger than the amount of money that the community's losing.
Got a question. Did the Board of Supervisors receive a business plan for this new Ag Expo Center that proposed in Sioux City, or how much revenue they anticipated from that building, and how much it was going to cost to operate it every year? And did they, a lot of publicity talks about cattle sales. Sioux City stockyards had cattle sales, and they dropped because there was no participation. We have a sale barn just between here and Holville that closed in the last year or so because no sales. Where do they think they're going to pick up cattle sales? It looks to me like they're dreaming for a lot of activities there that they're going to be hard pressed to secure.
We did look at the business plan, Jack, and the projections are $1.49 to $1.92 million annually. Cattle shows will be a very small part. There's equestrian, implement shows, and a lot of what they're looking at in Lincoln and Topeka and other areas, they're sold out consistently throughout the year. And so we're we looked at it from not only a perspective of their business plan and model that we think is going to be very healthy from an economic development standpoint, but also what we talked about earlier as far as being able to leverage other dollars. And the way that it's set up is that it's very similar to a sales tax TIF, in which they can capture any sales tax within that reinvestment district. And so it stands to gain $13.9 million from the state. And we did look at the financials. One of the things that we wanted to do on the county end of things is make sure that we had no indebtedness, no liability, and we were not going to be a part of the managerial responsibility of that in the future. But we did look at different areas where they had similar shows and similar exhibits from an agricultural expo standpoint, and we believe that it's a good project ultimately.
Where are the tax dollars coming from?
Tax dollars are going to come not from tax, but from gaming revenue. And that was very important to us because I think one of the go or no-go things in this was if it was going to increase taxes by any amount, we didn't want to do it. And so we have dedicated, it's $150,000 of gaming revenue over the next 10 years. What that's going to mean for us is that we're going to have to tighten our belts a little bit on equipment replacement, at least a portion of that over the next several years, because the gaming revenues that come in from the Hard Rock were set to offset some of that in equipment replacement, and so that's where we're going to look. We did not want to tax, nor do we want to take on any of the financial liability or debt service on that ultimately.
Budget-wise, as a whole, it's offset by some other one-time expenses and expenditures that we did last year. For instance, last year our countywide reserves were certainly under the recommended 22 and actually under 20%. So we actually spent about $150,000 without raising the tax levy to bolster our reserves. So we aren't anticipating spending that same $150,000 next year. So that's just one example of how there's a give and take in the county budget. As for the county's influence on the Ag Expo Center, I think one thing that we brought was, especially from our trip to DC, we found out through the USDA some grant opportunities, federally, obviously, and we brought that back, and part of our communication with the Fair Board was, we're not in if WIT's not in. Not necessarily because of their money, but because because the more that education is done in that Ag Expo Center, the more grants it will qualify for. And so we didn't want them to just make it all about cattle sales or things like that. It's also going to be an education center and hopefully secure some federal funding that way too.
And one of the things I think we insisted on was that they hire a managing company, a real managing company that knows how to do this. You can't hire a person who's never been exposed to this and say, okay, go learn it, because they're going to have to hit the ground running. And I do believe, Jack, I think you were in some of those conversations, the equestrian piece of that. These people travel all over the United States in multi-million-dollar motorhomes with groomers and trainers. I mean, they bring a fleet of people in. It's big business. So, and Baumgar stepped up to the plate. I got to tell you, if you walk through Baumgar's, the thing that they have said is that they're going to lean on all of their vendors. Now, if you are the manufacturer of DeWalt, and Baumgar's with 65 stores says, we'd like to have you participate, I think I'd say, yeah, I think I'll help you out. So there could be substantial money coming out of, plus they're going to get their name on the wall somewhere in the building, and I think it will be pretty heavy input on the money of that place.
Back to these county roads and gravel, how do we determine efficiency? You take these single axle trucks to deliver gravel, that's 13 ton of load. in figuring what he just said they want to put on a mile. That's 23 truckloads. You take a man working at $35 an hour, and then you take the $3 a mile to run that truck, that's about $1,600 a mile just for labor and truck. Wouldn't it be better to hire semis to do that?
That's what we're doing. It's hauled directly to the road by the center dump load. We aren't hauling that material with our own staff.
I don't know about that, Mark.
Well, we're hauling from our stockpiles with our own staff, but we're not hauling the extra gravel. That $300,000 that we put on this year was done by various trucking firms contracted through Hallett Materials this year.
But still, if you're hauling from your pit to our gravel roads, and what you're paying a man, $25 an hour according to the salary in the paper, and $10 an hour for perks, and then run the trucks, that's $1,600 a mile to deliver that gravel till 12, 14 miles from the pit.
But we're, number one, the gravel that our guys haul is a material that's hauled out to our 11 stockpiles throughout the county. That's used on a spot rock program in areas where we're covering up thin spots. The amount of extra gravel that we're putting down beyond our normal 104,000 that we're currently ordering is being done directly from the pit by semi-load to all the corners of the county. That 80 miles of gravel was all hauled by contract trucks, not by our staff. Our guys do haul some spot rock, yeah.
I guess I've never seen a semi on any of the roads. 150th, this one right out east of town.
We didn't do 150th this year. The roads that Mike had done, trying to remember where Mike did have it done. If you stop by the office, we've got the maps there, but
Just
each of
the
the
other day,
foremen
they brought
selected his map.
a load right out here east of town, the gravel trucks left, and it was one of the little single trucks, and I thought, boy, that's awfully expensive gravel to deliver it that way.
Small truck loads it is, yes.
Well, I'm excited about Pierson getting moving. It's got a lot of work to do, but that comprehensive plan is certainly going to pull your folks together, get them on the same page. And you know how to get a hold of David Gleiser.
One of the things too, just to mention, we've wanted to be as accessible as we can, and that's part of being out here. Also, that our meetings have moved, not only location, we're down on the lower level, is what I like to call it, a little bit of a bigger area, and at 4:30, we've thought that collectively is a little bit better time. I know it keeps our staff there a little later, but they enjoy spending time with us, and so I was waiting for the laughter. And then the other thing that we're looking at tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but Tuesday night, and we can thank John Malloy in the back, who's waving at you all for this idea. We're going to seek to live stream our meetings, and so that'll be a proposal, so that if you can't make it and you would like to watch in real time, that may be very much a possibility come this Tuesday. So we'll be looking forward to that. This is in the courthouse, and so we're going to try, instead of waiting 20 feet on YouTube, you can watch the action live along with the thousands and thousands of others who are eagerly waiting to watch it live as well.
Where will that show up, John?
On YouTube.
YouTube. Okay. We talked about this about 5 years ago, and it was so cost prohibitive that got dropped right away. It was very expensive. Took a lot of equipment. Now,
Like a lot of things, technology's changed a bunch in 5 years, just like it will 5 years again.
It was turmoil when you moved to the lower level.
Right.
We all read about that.
Change doesn't come easily all the time, but hopefully you can do it with a smile and appreciate the tradition of the past and learn from that, while at the same time looking forward to the future. So.
I think you have to assume you're on camera all the time. I mean, the woman that got snatched by that big cat, who would have had a camera on that? My gosh, in China.
I didn't see that, but I do know that I learned a lesson one of the first days. I had a portable microphone and I had it in my pocket and I took that with me to the restroom. And I learned after that to turn the mic off when you're not speaking, so.
I haven't done that yet.
That's why it lays on the desk. It never goes in your pocket.
That's why our new tables will have the mics in the wood.
So we can't take them places they shouldn't be. Yes, sir.
I seen one good idea. I thought it was a good idea. The county built a bridge out here northwest of town. They used 3 railroad flat cars, butted them together, so there's just 2 abutments there. And it's one of the nicest bridges around, and it's wide. And I wonder how that was cost compared to putting in a concrete bridge or that. You know where I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know where you're talking about. That one was done in cooperation with Plymouth County, as I recall.
Yeah, it's on the county line.
One of the problems with the rail car bridges is because of their popularity in Iowa, the cost of those used cars has tripled.
Iron went down.
I know iron went down, but the
Real cars
folks
went
who
up.
were salvaging those cars don't charge us scrap iron price. The other problem that I've observed with them, Erman Incorporated out of Missouri is the one that sells them. I don't know if it's a sign that the railroad is using them longer or exactly what's going on. The quality of the cars has not been there. The latest ones that I've looked at as I consider them in a bridge replacement scenario have been a lot lighter members than what these cars are. And you have to remember here, we're using an old frame that has seen a substantial part of its fatigue life consumed by its use on the railroad.
Yeah, but it's not hauling the load that the railroad cars hauling either.
No, it isn't hauling that same load when you've got a 40-ton semi going over it. But if you look at the load rating on a few of those, they were carrying 150,000 pounds up and down the road. That car may be 40 years old. We aren't sure how much life is in some of those sections. The new concrete bridges we're building, especially the ones that are out there on the gravel roads, with epoxy coated steel in them, with better quality control on the concrete, with the fact that we've almost eliminated the wood members on our bridges that are the first things to deteriorate and fall apart. We're looking at bridges that ought to get us 75 to 80-year life. I can't guarantee that out of a rail car.
Well, what was the cost of that railroad car bridge compared to your concrete bridge?
It depends. Those cars right now, the last price I saw on them, they were going for about $10,000 each. So $30,000 plus you're setting abutments on them. We got some sections for, we built this bridge down on Michigan Avenue, south of Highway 20, where 31 kind of angles and Old Highway 20. I think it's about the second road in. We got sections there that are comparable to those rail cars for about $53,000 to give us the same width bridge as what we've got up on the county line bridge. And I think we have a more durable product in those. The cost of what we set it on is the same regardless of whether we use a rail car or one of the precast concrete sections.
Will they carry the water flow the same?
We size the bridges according to according to a design flood. The design flood's based strictly on how many acres are feeding that bridge. So we look at corrugated metal pipes up to about 640 acres, so about one section. We can sometimes replace a bridge with a pipe. Up to about 2 square miles, we can use box culvert. Once we get over that 2 square miles, then we have to start looking at the different bridge structure options that we have out there.
Don't we have a used bridge for sale?
Yeah, we've got an old Bailey Bridge out there if somebody really would like to utilize it, yeah. We'll sell you the sections, you gotta find your own bolts, so.
But, originally was
you know,
something.
we look hard at different types of structures. I've been working with Federal Highway Administration and the County Engineers Association about serving on a committee that's looking at bridge replacements. Iowa overall has the second lowest cost in the country per square foot for bridge replacements. A lot of that is due to these bridges you see out there that are concrete, that are cast in place, are built. They're basically standard plans. We can take up from that box culvert all the way to a 300-foot bridge and fit an appropriate structure into each replacement that's hydraulically adequate, that contractors are capable and have the forms to build, and that they can build them relatively quickly and give us a good durable product. And compared to many other states in the nation, only Mississippi beat us as far as the cost to replace structures out there. And I think we've got very good quality structures. We've got some slabs that were built when I was very young. They're approaching 50 years now. They look almost as good as the day they were put out there. The biggest problem we have around here is our hungry canyons and the gradually deepening streams. And the good thing is with those concrete bridges with the encasements, we can continue to drop that encasement as that stream bed drops if necessary to help protect those piles. But the pile are driven deeply enough, it should avoid failure of that bridge from scour over time.
How many railroad car bridges did the county put in?
They've only put in one.
Just that one?
Just that one.
That's a nice bridge.
You must like that.
It's wide.
Yeah. I put in 2 in Delaware County. Buchanan County has probably 25, 26 of them. And the Buchanan County engineer was one of their big proponents, but even he would tell you now that the cars that are being sold to us are not nearly as good as the first ones we built. The first ones we built, I don't know what they hauled, if it was tanks or whatever it was, but they had much larger structural members underneath them than what the current ones offered for sale have. And there have been a couple of the current ones that are already load posted out there, and they determined that not by calculation, but by actually going out and loading them, measuring the strains, and then back calculating to see what the carrying capacity was on those bridges. So it's one thing I can say about our concrete structures, they don't get posted right after they're built.
I have to say that you have a great city clerk.
Yes, she is.
I've gotten to know her through the landfill, which I only sub on now, but she keeps those guys straight, so I'm assuming she's keeping everybody else straight too.
Well, and just a testament to that, I remember talking to Heather and Karen in our board office and saying, we had somebody from out in Pierson say, when's our turn? You've been out in all these rural communities, and it was your clerk. So she is on top of things and very much appreciated. Thank you very much for having us out here tonight. I think it's been a great time to just be able to get to know you a little bit better and to converse as well. And Gary is pointing. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Doc. All I have is just a couple comments on the lighter side. The County Board of Supervisors has been in Pierson before, but none of the current members were on at that time. D12 was the issue. And it was in bad shape, the cracks in it, and the county was filling it with their tar and red granite. And So there were complaints, and so the county board came out here. And by the end of the meeting, we were all pretty certain that nothing was going to be done. But by the next day, we found out that Supervisor Clausen received a break in his windshield on the way home. So it wasn't so long, we had a blacktop road.
And he still hasn't gotten that fixed.
The other issue, Mr. Clayton, you know how you guys send out the license plate renewals every year? Why not on there, put on happy birthday? It's the first birthday card you get.
We just know you're so happy just to see it.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. I'll look into that and see what that's gonna cost.
That's all I got.
Well, that's a good way to end, so
Yeah.
thank you all very much and really
Thanks for coming.
appreciate it. And be safe. Thank you, Thank you, Jared.
Thank you, sir.